As the world watches wars rage and alliances fracture, a quiet clock is ticking on something far more dangerous. At midnight, the New START nuclear treaty, the last remaining agreement limiting the world's most powerful nuclear arsenals, formally expires. But behind closed doors, the United States and Russia are scrambling to prevent a historic freefall. Sources tell Axios that American and Russian negotiators have been locked in intense talks over the past 24 hours in Abu Dhabi, racing to strike a last-minute understanding. The goal? To continue observing the core limits of New START even after the treaty officially lapses. It would not be a formal extension. It would not be written into law. It would be, as one U.S. official described it, a handshake deal. Why it matters could not be starker. New START is the final guardrail constraining the nuclear forces of Washington and Moscow, the two nations that together control around 85% of the world's nuclear warheads. Without it, there would be no binding caps, no inspections, and no transparency between rivals armed with weapons capable of ending civilization. President Donald Trump's envoys, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, are reported to have negotiated directly with Russian officials on the sidelines of Ukraine-related talks. And in a parallel signal of thawing channels, the U.S. military has quietly resumed direct military-to-military dialogue with Russia, contact that had been frozen since before Moscow's invasion of Ukraine. Yet uncertainty hangs over everything. The treaty will still expire. There will be no signatures. Nothing becomes real unless Trump and Vladimir Putin both personally approve it. Trump himself cast doubt just hours ago, writing that instead of extending what he called a badly negotiated deal, the United States should pursue a new, stronger, and modernized treaty.
He wrote just moments ago, the United States is the most powerful country in the world. I completely rebuilt its military in my first term, including new and many refurbished nuclear weapons. I also added Space Force and now continue to rebuild our military at levels never seen before. We are even adding battleships, which are 100 times more powerful than the ones that roamed the seas during World War II. The Iowa, Missouri, Alabama, and others. I have stopped nuclear wars from breaking out across the world between Pakistan and India, Iran and Israel, and Russia and Ukraine, rather than extend New START, a badly negotiated deal by the United States, which I will add was renegotiated under former President Barack Obama, aside from everything else, is being grossly violated. The president wants to have our nuclear experts work on a new, improved, and modernized treaty that can last long into the future, and that's what the United States will continue to discuss with the Russians.
Moscow, for its part, says it is ready to talk if Washington responds constructively. The Kremlin admits the treaty's expiration is regrettable, but warns that without limits, Russia is free to take what it calls military technical countermeasures to protect its security.
The term of the agreement is drawing to a close. We assess this quite negatively, and we express our profound regret in this connection. Our initiative also remained without a response, which was to preserve the ceilings on restrictions for an additional year, even following the completion of this document's period of validity. Yesterday, this topic was indeed mentioned regarding the negative consequences for the international nuclear arms control system and strategic stability. As you are well aware, our Chinese friends currently maintain a specific position according to which their own nuclear potential is simply not comparable to the massive potential of the United States and Russia, and that is exactly why they do not wish to participate in these negotiations, as they consider such a move to be entirely inappropriate. We certainly treat such a position with the utmost respect and understanding. Well, from now on, everything depends on how events will unfold. In any case, the Russian Federation will maintain its responsible, careful approach to the issue of strategic stability in the field of nuclear weapons.
Analysts say the stakes are enormous. If New START vanishes without replacement, both sides could deploy hundreds of additional nuclear warheads within just a few years. Inspections would end, trust would collapse, worst-case assumptions would take over.
An arms race is certainly possible. So Trump has said that he wants to do a new, better treaty, but unfortunately that's incredibly unlikely to take place in the short term. So what we're looking at now is a prolonged period of time where there's no nuclear arms control treaties between the world's two biggest nuclear forces. And in addition to potentially having those countries deploy additional warheads, it means that we lose that transparency and that dialogue that's been ongoing since the 1960s. And that can really increase the risk of miscalculations, accidental escalations, and leads to sort of worst case scenario thinking from both sides. So obviously the Ukraine war has really escalated tensions between Russia and the West. And we've seen that Putin has used a lot of nuclear threats throughout the Ukraine war, and that's the reason why they suspended participation in the treaty in the first place. So until there's a resolution, I think Putin will want to have his nuclear forces in his back pocket to threaten to use, or in worst case scenario to use. So there probably will need to be a resolution to the war before any substantial progress can be made. Trump has said that he wants to include China in any future treaties, but that's not going to happen in the interim because China has said that they won't engage in formal nuclear arms control until they achieve parity with the US and Russia, which isn't expected to happen until at least 2035. Well, it signals that nuclear powers are abandoning restraint, and other nuclear countries are going to be watching closely. China, obviously, but also the UK and France, who will be concerned about, the global state of security and may think that they need to build up their own forces as well, especially if Russia and China do the same. Russia and China view the Golden Dome as very destabilizing and escalatory, and for them, that is an incentive to modernize and expand their nuclear programs. And Russia particularly links limits on nuclear forces to constraints on US missile defense. So that'll be a big issue that needs to be dealt with.
And looming over it all is China, rapidly expanding its nuclear arsenal, yet refusing to join any agreement that would constrain it. Washington insists future arms control must include Beijing. Beijing insists it will not. So tonight, as the treaty expires, the world is left holding its breath. Will a quiet handshake keep the nuclear lid on, at least for now? Or is the world about to enter a new era with no rules, no limits, and no safety net?